everybody, and welcome to the Bi-Conics Podcast YouTube channel wrestling review. If you've been watching for a while, we still have not figured out a name. I am John, affectionately known as the Professor, and I'm joined this week by Mikey, who runs the Vibe Tribe here, who does all the editing, and we got to stop messing with you, Mikey. How are you?
I'm doing fantastic. You know, it's been a busy couple of days, but I'm really excited to review SmackDown because it wasn't terrible. It wasn't terrible this week.
Those words came out of your mouth. You're excited to review SmackDown. Minnie's not here this week. Minnie's doing a Magic tournament out in a hurricane somewhere. So good luck to Minnie wherever he ends up. Minnie, I hope Minnie watched this at SmackDown because Minnie was really down. Like Minnie was like, I can't believe I gotta watch SmackDown. And this one, okay, let's be fair. We're comparing it to other SmackDowns. So, you know, the bar has shifted many times.
The bar was not on the floor at the start of this, but it was pretty low because post SummerSlam SmackDowns have been
rough. And we talked about this the last few weeks too. We're sort of still working our way through Canada, or it seems like a lot of superstars cannot make their way up into Canada. And we were talking before we started about Shotzi. Maybe Shotzi doesn't have all her stuff because she recently had a theft in her life and she was trying to piecemeal her life back together from that. So that makes total sense too. Because that's kind of what's been missing for me with the Bailey and the Io Sky stuff, but we'll talk about that. This was the 25-year anniversary of Edge in the WWE. We built up last week on SmackDown. We're here in Toronto talking about Edge fighting Sheamus for this one. So there was a lot of Edge promos, which is interesting. And we'll talk about this at the end of the show, probably, because for me, the most fascinating thing about Edge was what happened after SmackDown, which has been making the rounds on the internet.
Yep. What happened when it went off air?
Off air, which was actually quite beautiful and sad, and I don't know what any of it means, but we'll talk about that. So the night started off. I wrote this down. I did a dodgeball quote to start my night watching SmackDown. They're starting the show off with the Grayson Waller effect. That's a bold move, Cotton. Let's see if that plays out for
Honestly, this was interesting that we started off with the Grayson Waller effect. But, you know, we didn't really talk about this last week, but, you know, we got commentator shakeup. And, you know, when it was announced that Michael Cole was going to be doing both shows, I'm like, oh, okay, cool. So Michael Cole is going to do lead. No, Kevin Patrick is doing lead for SmackDown. And I already hate it.
Sometimes it works. I love Kevin Patrick. I think it's phenomenal. I think they're still figuring out who talks when and who does what. Because Michael Cole is still kind of the face announcer or trying to lean into that more, but is still used to being the point man, that it's not always clicking. And Kevin is doing a great job with the wraparound, like the cue to commercial. We're coming back from this. So he's got the bookend stuff down great. And Corey Graves is just going to run his mouth because it's Corey Graves.
Because he's the heel and he's supposed to.
And that's tough. And you're right. At the top of SmackDown, where you have the three of them plus Grayson Waller, that's a lot of moving parts. So that's tough. And again, we've talked about this already. I'm not a huge fan of these talk show things ever since I was a kid. But I love seeing Santos and Ray be the guests. I love Santos getting angry in Spanish and making me a little warm listening to Santos go barking at Grayson and politely doing the English subtitles, even though you knew exactly what he said.
I was like, that's not how it's translated, but it's okay.
I was like, you're saving that for the white people. That's fine. I actually liked this. I did not hate it, and particularly because it was setting up what came next. I thought it was fun.
Yeah, again, the Grayson Waller effect is one of the few times where they do like these talk show segments during the middle of an episode that I'm okay with. But you know, first and foremost, Waller talks about that the celebration of Edge is tonight, which, as we saw at the Madison Square Garden show, him and Edge fought, which was a phenomenal match still, in my opinion. But Santos and Ray, who also got announced as the new United States Championship, they both come down. I loved it. Escobar still selling the knee injury. Even though we had some problems about it, we talked about it last week.
Yeah, we talked about that a little bit.
I do appreciate the continuity.
Yeah, I love Grayson Waller trying to drive a wedge in between them and them just shutting it down. Like, no, no, you're not doing this. No, you're not doing this. No, you're not doing this. And Grayson Waller kind of still supporting that storyline of I'm just a heel. I make bad things happen. Um, Austin Theory comes out ready for a match, which I immediately thought was suspicious. Like, oh, you're just wearing ring gear. You're not wearing normal clothes. Okay, you're here to fight somebody. That's weird. Um, that wasn't really telling anything. And then he has this random like Father of the Year joke at Ray, which was just mean.
So I'm kind of tired of, I mean, we had the WrestleMania match, and that story beat kind of concluded at WrestleMania because now Ray and Dominic are doing different things now. Dominic is on Raw with the Judgment Day, and then him and Rhea are
Sure.
also showing up in NXT.
Sure.
And I'm excited for their match. They're gonna have for Heatwave next week, but that's neither here or there. Like the deadbeat dad joke, I was just like, even when Dominic says it, I'm like, bro, that was like in April. Like, we're almost in fall now. Like, we moved on from this. I moved on. You should too.
It's easy, right? It's easy. I
It's
need to say
literally
something.
low hanging fruit.
Yeah, it's something quick and painless. I can go poke, and I got you one, and we all know what you're talking about. So Austin Theory gets into the ring, demands Adam Pearce come out here, and not for match. Adam Pearce, give me my title back. Doesn't even want to go through all the work of earning it back. Wants to go full recount and treason and just give me my belt back.
But then, of course, Adam Pearce comes out and he's like, bro, I knew you were going to pull some stunt like this. And nobody wants to hear Austin complain. And then the music hits, and out comes SmackDown's biggest star right now with the crowd, L.A. Knight. Yeah.
Huge pop. Toronto goes crazy. I think Adam Pearce got out like 10 words, and all of a sudden it just goes L.A. Knight, pow, and then like the crowd, you're done. Adam Pearce had no chance, and rightfully just kind of steps back as LA Knight comes in. Uh, I was all in. I mean, I was all in seeing Austin Theory come down, but seeing LA Knight kind of now have a storyline that, as this develops, and we'll talk about, that's sort of this Grayson Waller and Austin Theory and The Miz kind of thing that's going on.
Like this weird trifecta.
Which is great. I think it's gonna work. I think they're gonna figure out what has to happen. But anyway, LA Knight has a great line in here. I'm gonna give that cross-eyed half-wit a shot, which out of nowhere was like, oh,
LA, it is, but it is so good. LA Knight's perfect. Like, he knows the art of dragging people.
absolutely.
With his verbal jabs.
All his promo. Like I went and did a little bit of homework. A lot of his NXT promos were still really good. Like some of these other indie things, like he's been doing it for years, and he just kind of gets to really lean into it now. So he demands a match. Adam Pearce goes, okay, but we're gonna do it right now. And Toronto goes crazy.
And then we go to commercial.
Go to commercial break. Which is funny because it looked like LA Knight was starting to move the furniture. Like
right.
He moves a plant.
We go to commercial so everybody can move everything so we can have this match. And then when we come back from commercial break, before we even get into the match, of course, WWE needs to hype up their success, which I have a bone to pick with them. They let us know, be like, yo, these ticket sales for WrestleMania 40 in Philadelphia broke all the records. I'm like, they break the records every year. Calm down. And by the way, WWE, I have a bone to pick with you because I know you still have some tickets in the cheap seats available. But like when I went to Ticketmaster to go take a look for us, I was like, I'm not paying $3,000 for these seats. That was like all that was left. And I was like, probably the scalpers got the cheap seats or people are going to start reselling them once we figure out the card. However, period, comma, we're still going to go. I'm hoping we still get to go to WrestleMania. If not, we will definitely we'll still do Stand and Deliver for NXT. I will drag you all to an NXT show.
I'm okay being dragged to an NXT show. That doesn't bother me. $3,000 to go to Philly?
They increase the price every single year because I was just like, bro, last year I paid like $30 for the nosebleed seats when we went to SoFi Stadium.
Yeah, maybe they just haven't released the nosebleed seats yet. Maybe it's that.
And I'm pretty sure people are going to sell their tickets if the card is not exactly the greatest.
I
But
mean, that could,
if
well,
worst
now you
case,
have
yeah, worst
you have
case,
WrestleMania nerds who are like, "Oh, by the way, is it 2 days in Philly?"
yes, still
Okay,
2 days.
so it's probably them rolling the dice on which day's the good day.
Seriously, man, it's out of control. If anything, we're still gonna do Stand and Deliver and maybe try to do SmackDown and Raw. And who knows?
We'll
There
figure it out.
there might be other. I know Philadelphia will be flooded with other wrestling events we can do too.
We gotta figure out something in the middle of the country so that we can figure like we could all end up in somewhere in the Midwest because that'll be easy for us.
Honestly,
Or just make the other folks come to California because we're in California.
I mean, if you weren't so far away, because supposedly the Full Gear pay per view for AEW is coming to Los Angeles in November.
Is that true?
Yeah. Now I'm waiting until we get further confirmation, but
Is that another one of the all shows? All in, all out, all in the family?
it's part of their big four, like the ones that happen every year. But this will be the first time that, other than Double or Nothing, West Coast gets an AEW pay per view.
Sweet.
We'll
All right.
we'll talk off camera. Me, you,
Interesting.
and maybe Minnie
Well,
can
we gotta
figure something out.
sorry, bad podcasting as
I
we
know,
find
right? On the
we're like,
tangent.
so the LA Knight, Austin Theory happening now. They moved the furniture. Grayson Waller nowhere to be seen. Getting ready to start this match, and down comes the Miz
Of course,
from the heavens, who
of
I guess
course.
is now a free agent. The draft didn't matter. Miz can go
The
wherever he
draft,
wants.
first and foremost, the draft never mattered because we talked about this nauseum. It should it shouldn't be said. Commentary had to kind of backtrack a little bit because it wasn't entirely clear, but this is a number one contenders match. So whoever won this would face Ray for the United States Championship. But Adam Pearce didn't get a chance to say anything. Commentary didn't say it until like halfway through the match. And then,
Yeah,
like
they
you
kind of
said,
left that.
yep, Miz comes out to join commentary. And then,
So the
yep.
Miz is still incredible on the mic.
Oh, for
Miz
sure.
is fantastic on the mic. I've always been. I've seen some of Miz's highlights, and I respect the Miz for what getting kicked out of the locker room because they thought he was a certain type, and I've read some of those stories and things like that, and some of his match highlights are fantastic. But on the microphone as a performer, the Miz is still. That's why he's got that reality show. Like he's still pairing him up as a heel with LA Knight. Brilliant. Lots of good words are gonna happen.
I'm telling you, when they started their feud last week on Raw, and they went back and forth on the mic, was a thing of art. It was really beautiful. It was so good.
Yeah, that made all the rounds. Like I don't even watch the Raw, and I was like, oh, what is this on my feed? What happened? What?
And surprisingly, this match was not bad. It was actually pretty
It was
decent.
not. So what's interesting is Austin Theory and LA Knight. They're not high flyers. They're not great catch wrestlers. They do it every now and then. They go move to move fluid every now and then for sure. But they're kind of a call your shot, call your spots, power stuff. And this was really clean, really fun and fast. Like they're moving really fast. The shots were hard. They're barking at each other. So the Miz had the great line. I wrote this down because it was fantastic. Where did it go? I know you're here somewhere. Oh, I was out. Yeah, he's trying. So he says, talking about LA Knight is this phenomenon in this. Are you jealous? And the Miz goes off. Are you jealous, jealous, jealous? And then now the new angle against LA Knight, right? Is you're a wannabe. You're a flash in the pan. He says that. You're Fandango without tap shoes. You're Eugene without crayons. You're the next doink. Welcome to the clown show. I lost my mind.
I know. I
so good.
was laughing so hard. I was just like, this is where Miz shines to me, is when when you put him up against a person who is also just as charismatic as him on the mic and just is very quick-witted with everything. The other part that got me too is when this whole match, poor Austin Theory was just getting ragdolled because when they went to the outside and Miz was yelling at LA Knight, in between everything that Miz was saying, LA Knight was just like, bam, Austin Theory's face to the table. Says something, bam, once again, bam, do it again, bam.
I also feel like Miz had a few moments where him and LA Knight caught eyes and they were like trying not to laugh.
They're like,
there's
this
a part
is great.
of them like they're still the 14-year-olds. Like, this is awesome. This is hilarious. Yeah, the audience is counting to 10, and LA Knight's like, I'm just gonna let this ride. I'm gonna keep smashing Austin Theory's face. And we'll talk about this later on. This was the first question mark blood of the night. LA Knight got rocked on the head somewhere. Had a pretty good gash on the forehead. Didn't bleed, but had enough for me to be like, "Oh, I see that. That doesn't look good." I don't know when that happened. Probably
It's
happened during a commercial
it's
break.
not Moxley levels of bleeding, but
No,
we got
no,
a little bit because WWE doesn't
Mox
like blood.
Moxley's a goddamn donor at this point. So we have this match. These things are going. We cut to this and there. There's a commercial in the middle. They're really good at commercials in the middle of the match, and by really good, I mean it's driving me batshit. We go to commercial. We come back. Austin Theory gets the upper hand a little bit. LA Knight goes back and forth, tries to pull some few moves. Miz gets involved, jumps into the ring. Almost. LA Knight gets mad. I'm pretty sure the Miz got blood on that nice suit because it went right over his head at one
Honestly.
point.
And then Austin Theory wins by the most devastating move in all professional wrestling history, the surprise roll-up pin, and the handful of tights, might I add you too, that we
Which
saw
we didn't see. We didn't see ass full of tights. We didn't see him pull it
until
all the way up.
afterwards. It's like, dang. But
Uh,
Austin Theory is your new number one contender, and at some point, him and Rey Mysterio are going to be fighting for this United States Championship. Cool. And
it's fine. It's okay. Yeah.
I figured LA wasn't gonna win because when I saw Miz, I was like, "Oh, we're extending this feud. That's cool," and I didn't mind
They're
it.
gonna milk. They're gonna let this ride for a while. Like I think they're gonna build this up, and maybe they're building something to WrestleMania. Now it's just gonna take us 7 months to. It's gonna take us 7 months to see it. But they're
Oh,
hinting at all the right things, right? They're saying, "I'm not gonna believe in LA Knight until he holds a championship. He's a wannabe. He's this attitude era, whatever." Paul Heyman makes a crack at him later. Like they're building up that storyline of, "Oh yeah, this guy's just a fraud." Even though we're all like, "He's kinda over and really good. I know what you're doing, but I don't know."
again, we talked about this, like when wrestlers get themselves over without the WWE machine kind of pushing them to get them over too. Like,
Yeah.
Triple H and a certain extent when LA Knight was in NXT too, Shawn Michaels, like they
Oh,
are
yeah.
okay with wrestlers getting over, but Vince is such a stickler for if it doesn't come from him or his creative, like he just doesn't let the wrestlers do anything, and it
Well, I wonder
sucks.
now, and we could talk about this if you wanted. I think he's so over, they can't squash it.
No, because
So
then
now
the
they
fans will
so
turn.
you see, the last 4 months, they've had to let it ride, and it seems like since SummerSlam or right before SummerSlam, when we were like, "What are you doing with LA Knight?" They finally made the decision, "Okay, we're gonna start pushing you. Let's pair you with The Miz. Let's pair you with this. Let's get this rolling. Let's get this going." Because up until then, they weren't sure what to do, and I know Vince is pulling all the strings, and Pritchard's known for kind of being a dick about that too and causing his shit. But you just can't deny some of these characters and some of
No.
these wrestlers. You can't deny that. So it's like you better let this ride because your stadium is filled with those t-shirts. Like dudes making you money out of nowhere.
Yeah. I'm gonna be honest, like I hope he's at the house show when they come to the Palm Springs area in September. So cuz I will lose my absolute mind because I believe in LA Knight. I've been following him since he was Eli Drake in Impact Wrestling. That's how far I go back with dudes. I follow his journey through Impact, and then the fact that he got to it's not so great now given everything that has happened with the tax evasion stuff, but the fact that his one of his first biggest feuds in NXT, he got to work with $1 million man himself, like that was intense. And then man, LA Knight is such a great thing, and I know we're doing a slow burn. I'm just happy that now we finally have some direction of a feud with him because he's just
Yeah.
been floundering since the beginning of the year. And, now we're slowly getting somewhere. And, Austin versus Ray, I think, should be fun if it's given time. Miz and LA Knight exchange words at the end of the match. So
Yeah.
hopefully on Raw, we'll see what happens next. And then we get like the first this is like intro to video productions type of segment because we get this first segment with a bunch of videos from the superstars to celebrate the 25th anniversary for Edge. So in this first section, it thanking and congratulating Edge for 25 years and all that. And in this first section, we get John Cena, Sheamus, who we're going to talk about later because that main event was kind of fire. Natalia, Miz once again, Charlotte, Sami Zayn, and then after this video package, we go to a commercial, and then we come back from commercial.
for part 2 of the video.
Yes. And this time we see a bunch of Hall of Famers that include legends like Triple H. I was like, Hunter, you need to eat a sandwich. Uh, the Voldemort of the WWE wrestling machine, Hulk Hogan. He shall not be named. I will talk about this man all the time, Mick Foley, because Mick Foley is the best person ever. Stone Cold. We even got to see a Randall Keith Orton, which was nice because,
Hey.
he's been missing for almost a year. And then, of course, my man Batista, Batista's also a really nice dude. He's hilarious. The transition is everything.
I loved seeing, and it wasn't subtle, but there was a good 45 seconds of him and Christian. It showed a lot of Christian, and that's somebody humbling themselves because, as we all know, once you have left WWE, you're dead to us. You don't exist. We pull you from the record books. All of these things are void. We never mention you ever again.
You can't talk. Yeah, I feel like with this one, because I think the reason that we got to see that is for 2 reasons. Number one, the lesser of the 2 is because there is no Edge without Christian, because they started their careers as that tag team, and they were a staple in that tag team division, and brought out tag team wrestling can actually be really good, because that triple threat between those 2, the Hardys, and then the Dudley Boys in that first tables match ever in the ladders. Oh my gosh, that put tag team for WWE. That showed me, tag team wrestling can be really good. And then, of course, this video could not be taken more seriously, because then we saw some of the superstars doing Edge's signature poses, which includes, we got recurring from Natty and Sammy. And then I love seeing Cody not take himself too seriously either, because we saw Cody doing it as well. It was great. And then, the fans after this video plays, they're just chanting Edge as Corey on commentary hypes it up. Okay. So then after we get all that, then we get our next match of the night. The pacing was actually a lot better tonight, too. I was just like, even with all the Edge stuff that was happening, the pacing was pretty good. Though
it's still tough having 20, 25 minutes between matches, even with commercials after a while.
I didn't have an issue with it until we get to one particular recap video package, which I'll yell about in a little bit. But we get... this is the only women's match we got on SmackDown. And, it's, the same problem we're running into, because we're using the same 4 or 5 people. And I was just like, but I thought we moved on from this. So Io and Bayley are taking on Charlotte and Bianca, which is fine, because last week... Well, no, not even. It should have been Charlotte and Asuka in this position. The fact that Io is the one that ruined their match last week, but you're going to throw Bianca in there? Okay, sure, fine, I guess.
Bayley is still really awkward on the mic, even just trying to make any words come out. And I love her to death. She's great. In the ring, phenomenal. Talking out loud has been hard for her. And I don't want to sound like a jerk either, but I'm like, she's struggling. Somebody help her out.
Well, and then on top, okay, let's go through this match first, and then I'm going to nitpick some of the things that I had. So, because of last week, it makes sense that Bayley and Io are going to be facing Charlotte. But again, Bianca's insertion into this match is just like, oh, sure, fine, whatever. I will say I still like seeing now. I'm happy that Dakota Kai can walk again now while she's still rehabbing. So I'm glad she's back. And as a side tangent, in an interview, she didn't know she was going to be at SummerSlam until literally an hour before. They called her, be like, hey,
really?
We need you to come to SummerSlam so we can have this moment. And they told her that Io was going to win. And this was the first she heard of it. And in fact, it was found out later that Io didn't know she was cashing in until the match started.
Really?
Yeah, which was crazy. I was like, ooh.
Wow, they held on to that as long as they
And they also didn't tell Io that Dakota was going to be there either. So when Dakota goes in the ring and Io's hopping up and down and hugging her and everything, that was genuine reaction. Io had no idea.
That's amazing.
We love good stuff.
I wrote down that, and I know it's the same for women we've seen a lot of the last 2 or 3 months,
but this was
on SmackDown.
This was kind of good.
I wrote down this was in my top 5 women's as of right now. This is number match. 5 out of 5, but it was this was really good.
And of course, I mean, Bailey might be struggling on the mic, but she and Charlotte are still part of the 4 horsewomen class. Like they still go do great. Bianca is
Still,
always great. Io
still
finally
amazing.
getting to showcase like now that she's the champion and she's actually being given time in
To
matches.
go full acting teacher, and I know that's not what the segment is. Maybe we need a segment that's just acting teacher talks.
Just do it right now. Do it in this match. We are debuting a new segment here on SmackDown. We are calling it the theatrical corner with the Professor John. So go ahead and take it away.
I mean, we'll see how regular this happens. It comes off to me as Bailey is in her head while trying to think of what to say, which happens to actors who are told to improvise, or sometimes improvisers who are given words to memorize, where you sort of get clunky in the brain and you're not really sure where to go. So you're not breathing correctly. So your breath is kind of half, which is numbing your brain, and you're just not putting the thoughts out like you want to be, and you're not really in the moment and having that through line of what you want to say. Sometimes that speaks to preparation. And I know that these wrestlers sometimes don't have any time to prep. They give them a mic and go say something about the champion. Go. It's like, ah, or it's like, you got 30 seconds, fill it. Ah, and the greats can do that. You can give them a mic and they could stand out there and they could just fill, and talk. Not everyone has that skill. It's something you got to work on. And I think there's moments where Bailey gets supported by others and is kind of able to do it like an ensemble would, and it's awesome. There's sometimes like when she was at the announce table a month ago, and I was like, "Oh, Bailey, you're getting crushed," because she was kind of sitting there waiting for the announcers to serve it up to her. So she was stuck in this, what do I say? What do I say? I know what I was told to do kind of place. And again, this is me nitpicking, and she has more money than I will ever have, and she's a star. So I'm not trying to cut her down. Bailey is still a fantastic wrestler. It just seems like maybe take a breath. Maybe have a moment to yourself. Take in the audience around you if you're gonna have that fourth wall presence. Breathe here and invite them in, and then go, "Oh, that's right. I'm the heel. I'm the bad bitch. I don't give a damn about you." And you don't have to force it at all. Just take that moment. Take your moment, really. You don't have to rise up to it. She started the whole promo, like, hunched down, like, almost crawling. "I'm gonna be the bad guy." It's like, "No, hey, relax into this. You don't have to do that. We're already on your side. We're already kinda rooting for you even though we're rooting against you. We want you to succeed. You don't gotta be anything more than yourself in those moments." And she's not the only one. There's a few other performers who are kinda notorious for this. They get the mic and go, "Yeah, let me hear, ah," and then they don't know what to do. And LA Knight has had years of this. And sometimes charisma like that is you cannot train that. You just have that or you don't have that. However, you can still learn presence and how to manipulate that.
And that has been the theatrical corner this week by the Professor John. Excellent, my friend.
Hey,
Well, this
I'll
promo
take
took
it.
yeah, this promo took up a little bit of time because then we had to go to commercial again.
I know.
I was like, this promo took up a bunch of airtime, but then we went to commercial, and then we come back, and then I almost threw things at Michael Cole at my TV screen because then he started hyping up this backstage interview that Kayla was going to have with Paul Heyman on an update of the Bloodline. I'm like, no, keep the Bloodline off my television screen. It's so refreshing that I'll have exactly. It's so refreshing that I'll have to see them on my television screen this
It
week.
was refreshing. It felt like a totally different show when it wasn't bloodline. Yeah.
We
This
talked.
match was a lot of fun. So
Oh,
this was
for sure.
blood question mark number 2. Charlotte Flair got hit in the nose at some point. I couldn't find anything on the internet or any reporters talking about what happened to her, but twice the ref checked in with her, and both times she just went, "I'm fine, it's okay." So I'm wondering where she got rocked in the nose or when. It didn't seem like a big deal. Cameraman caught Dakota Kai right in the face. Instead of Charlotte Flair falling off the ring, it's Dakota Kai going, "Hi, whoops," in the wrong spots.
Camera guy, you're fired.
Camera guy. Um, yeah, this match was great. Like, I didn't take any notes because I was watching the match. I had a question. I saw this
hmm
and I heard of it, but I've never seen it, and I'm thinking there's a reason. Bianca Belair does not whip anyone with her hair anymore, right?
That's and
She's done it 3 or 4 times, and all the women that took it said it was not worth it.
so which is funny because like she did when she back in the NXT days, um, NXT, she would do it all the time. And then she kind of did it a little bit when she first got to main roster. But the last person I can remember getting whipped with the braid was Sasha at WrestleMania 38 or 37, whichever one was in Tampa, like a year.
Uh-huh.
Like that was the last time, to my knowledge, that Bianca whipped somebody with her braid. And the welt afterwards was very crazy.
Yeah. It might have been Sasha Banks. There was somebody else I couldn't remember. I saw a replay of it coming off the ropes up, and then the sound was
Bam!
it wasn't a
That was
it wasn't
real. I was like, ooh.
like some of chops, that's a cool sound. This whip, it was not a cool sound. It's a sound you heard and you went, nope, not okay.
Oh, someone's
Not okay.
someone's diaphragm and intestines just got
And maybe
bruised.
maybe it was Sasha. She holds up part of her costume, and there's just this big
Big
like
welt.
whip line. Like, oh no.
In the words of Rihanna, sticks and stones may break my bones, but chains and whips excite me.
I mean, yeah, but then you gotta wake up the next day and go, oh, what did I do?
Yeah, so Bianca really but the hair whipped. Well, I don't even want to say it was reserved when Bianca was a heel, because Bianca technically was kind of face when it was weird. Her and Sasha were kind of in betweeners when they fought at WrestleMania, but I can see heel Bianca whenever we get that heel turn, her going back to her NXT
Heck,
days and just hitting people with the braid. But
that's so much.
and we actually got time with this match because when the match started, this match had to finish up like a couple minutes after because we got a commercial break in between this match.
Yeah, I don't know what it was with commercial break, or if it was the promos went long, so they put commercials in the middle of matches.
It's like literally promo, commercial, match for a little bit, then we
There
went
were
to another commercial.
2.5 in the Edge match with Sheamus. Like, what is happening?
I feel like that match shouldn't have the commercials, but that's neither here nor there.
No. I thought this match was great. Io Sky going between the turnbuckles into the camera was like made me jump. That was a cool moment too that sticks out for me. Bianca Belair gets the pin clean. Her and Charlotte have a moment in the ring together. This was a great match, which I think they kind of did dirty by showing them beat up Bianca Belair in a promo right after. Well, it was like, why? This has nothing to do with anything.
Right. And
We're
yeah.
attacking a knee.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Why? We don't need this. That's where your Shotzi promo should have been.
Okay,
That's where any other female wrestler could have been.
So we'll get to this backstage attack more in depth, but you know what? I'll save my Shotzi stuff for when we get there, because this match was a lot of fun, and I felt like, oh, okay, so we can kind of like, I could see different directions for this. If we're not getting Io versus Asuka at Payback, then like Io feuding with Charlotte or Bianca for a little bit can be fine.
Sure.
That's not what I would like, but because I shared last week what my ultimate dream booking would be for Io leading into WrestleMania, but that's neither here nor there. So
I mean, you're not wrong.
So after this match, we get the second video package with all the superstars with Edge. Congratulatory message. This time we see AJ and Cody actually giving his, congratulatory message. Dolph Ziggler, who I have not seen on my television screen.
Yeah,
and that makes me upset. Ricochet, Bayley, Becky Lynch has had a hell of a week because she's over everything. I was over it for her. I'm still going to talk about how bad that match between her and Trish was on Monday. That really soured Raw for me. It was so bad.
A lot of folks are not happy. I mean, this is not Raw. This is the SmackDown, but woof.
Well, I mean, it's women's wrestling in WWE, and that was not it. Like, I think what didn't help is that they made Trish keep her mask on for like half of the match, and it kept falling off. And I was like, we know she's healed. Just let Trish take off the mask and fight.
Why is she wearing a mask?
Because she's okay. Quick history lesson and side tangent, and then we'll continue.
I mean,
because she's giving a nod to like when she wrestled with the mask on when she was during the 2000s eras of WWE, because she did break her nose back then and she had to wrestle with it.
Okay.
And remember, this was also the time where the women were wrestling a lot of them were, at least the top card of the women's division at that time, that weren't involved in the bra and panty matches of the 2000s. Like they were legit trying to make the women's division a thing.
Sure.
So
Absolutely.
her, Lita, Mickey James, Melina, um, like Eve Torres, like those were Beth Phoenix to a certain extent. Like those were the women that were trying to actually do stuff. And so at that point, if the women were get hurt or injured, they would go out to recovery, but Vince would never put them back on television like he should have. So a lot of the women, you come to find out later, a lot of them wrestled with broken ribs and like fractured arms and stuff because they did not want to lose their spot because Vince still doesn't like women's wrestling. Hot take. But back then too, it was
it's
worse.
not a hot take if it's true.
It was worse for them. So that was the nod, but just the chemistry was off. And, I think Becky and Trish were still upset that their match got cut from SummerSlam as they should be. So we extend. And I mean, I'm hoping that the cage match at Payback between the two of them, which got confirmed earlier today, will redeem this match. But
you're going to do it again?
Yeah, but this time it's a steel cage. It's going to be at Payback. I ultimately think this feud is continuing to Survivor Series, where we're going to get Team Trish versus Team Becky, and then let that be the end of it, please. But Dolph, Ricochet, Bayley, Becky, Rey Mysterio, Kevin Owens, Kurt Angle himself. I love Kurt.
I love Kurt Angle.
I loved it when he was an honorary Shield member and wrestled with the Shield after Roman got COVID.
He's been honorary Shield. He was honorary DX. He's been honorary.
He's been almost in every major faction, and he's like that one kid in school. He's friends with everybody. You don't know why or how, but it's great. Okay,
I was that kid. I had a lot of weird ass friends.
I love that. Let's talk about my boys, the Street Profits, next.
Okay, so then we get Street Profits versus the OC. What did OC stand for?
The OC stands for the original club, because remember, WWE can't use the trademark.
Is it original club?
Well, okay, so it has to be original club because AJ and Carl Anderson and Doc Gallows, like those three were part of New Japan's Bullet Club. But because New Japan owns the rights to the name Bullet Club, they can't use the word Bullet Club. So WWE got around it by calling them the OC, the original club, because those three were the original version of the Bullet Club.
What a dumb name.
I know.
That's because anyone, I mean, if you're from California, it's Orange County. And if you're from anywhere else in the country, it means something completely different. That's what it's been this whole time.
Yes, the original club. I'm sorry I'm sorry to break your dreams and hopes and everything.
I was hoping it was something far more interesting than that. Oh man.
This is WWE. This is what happens when you let Bruce Pritchard and all them name people.
And like we've said, if it makes sense, they're not going to do it. That's unfortunate. Because they're good. They're great wrestlers. They're fantastic in the ring. Usually, they're a little limited in some ways, but they're great performers, and they worked really well with the Street Profits. This was a fun match. I enjoyed it a lot. I watched the Street Profits all day. I watched the Street Profits do anything.
Their new finisher, oh my gosh. Like, that was the thing of beauty. So Angelo Dawkins goes up for like a sit-down power bomb, and then as he's coming down, Montez goes for a neck breaker, and I was just like, you know what? Honestly, this is probably the safest finisher right now, because you have Angelo and Montez protecting the person taking this neck breaker pop-up power bomb combo.
It's safe. They're doing all the heavy lifting. If you can pull out of it if you need to at any time, like that looked really clean to me. Montez Ford still touches the ceiling every time he jumps off that top rope.
It is the thing.
He almost went too far. Almost went a little too far. But the height these gents get is just ridiculous.
Honestly.
Great match. Had a lot of fun watching this. This is what kept SmackDown at a 7-8 for me. The matches have been hitting. Every single one of these are really fun.
And then, of course, when Street Profits go back up the ramp, Bobby Lashley comes out, and everyone is happy to see Bobby. I'm so happy now that we're actually using Bobby Lashley, because the fans, surprisingly love him, and so do I.
Should they not love Bobby Lashley?
No, Bobby's a great person. It's just, I don't know what WWE, why they're not using him to his full capacity.
That's what my question was going to be, is what the hell is going on? We've had 3 months of Bobby Lashley in a suit talking to the Street Profits. We don't know if this is a faction. We don't know if it's just, hey, I like these guys, they're my friends, or if it's what. So, or if Bobby Lashley's ready to wrestle but can't. I don't think he's injured. I don't know if he took time for anything. Where are we going?
I am very interested. Oh no, I had
And
a
I'm not.
horrible thought.
I mean, and I'm not angry. I'm not saying that in an angry way. I'm saying that in much more of a like, hey, I just want to know. I'm intrigued. Quit. Lots of dirty terms. Quit playing me along. Tell me what you are. I
They're
want to know.
teasing. They keep continually to tease you, and you can't
You're
take it no
teasing
more.
me, and if these turn blue again, I'm going to be very angry. What is happening? I want to know.
Oh my goodness.
Come on.
So I'm excited. Um, okay, so this is not just a SmackDown thing. This is all the promotion things that irritates me. So I'm like, cool, we're getting entrances to the matches. Then we're going to come back and then we're going to have a fight. The entrances are still going on because before this match even started, as like the Street Profits are coming down or getting ready to come down to the ring, like then we go to the backstage segment. And this is where Bianca gets attacked by Damage Control. And they beat.
This is where I'm sorry. I switched where the. Okay, I'm sorry.
But this is where we'll get into the segment, but this is my issue and I hate this. I was like, stop starting matches and then giving me interview segments or backstage things that are happening like before the match. And I was like, bro, I was anticipating this match. I was like, now I don't know the right terminology for this, but like shifting my focus from my expectations of we're about to fight, and then I have to like put on my theater glasses, so to speak, of like promos or backstage segments. I was just like, you could have did this after the match if need be. I thought it would. Yep.
I've heard directors, theater directors, and I've taken this term now too. There's this whiplash.
Mm-hmm.
There's this sense of you led me this direction, and now you've whipped me this way, and unless you have a reason to, it's you're not going to win me back easily. I'm going to be super confused. Like, why did we go from there to there? There's got to be some kind of lead in, some kind of take care of your audience, not just look over there. Oh no, look back over here. Oh no, like that doesn't work all the time.
Right. And honestly, they could have did this afterwards. And I don't know if they want to push Bobby and, the Street Profits as kind of heelish, but I think it would have been amazing storytelling because it's no secret that Montez and Bianca are an actual couple. So I'm like, you're expecting me to believe before or even after the match, whenever they wanted to air this, like Montez is not going to run back and go check on his wife who is getting beat up by Bailey and Dakota and Io. I was like, come on, WWE. Like, I know the casual audience doesn't know all this information, but for those of us who know, I'm like, we know. Like, come on.
Who was that dude with the tie who jumped in there like a Superman? Like, just some rando jumps in there, gets between them all with a suit and tie. Like,
it's like either an extra or a backstage producer. Yeah, like everybody backstage is playing multiple roles.
Dude was just happy to be on camera. I was like, good for you getting in there. All right, getting the shot. Good job.
Okay. I mean, let's just talk about this because like I was actually enjoying SmackDown. And then we got into the part where I was just like, okay, well, at least I was like, it had to have happened at some point. So we start off with Paul Heyman being shown backstage and he's in deep thought. And then we cut to commercial. Then we come back to commercial. And then we get a freaking recap video of what happened. Not what happened with the blood. Like, we got a recap of everything that went down last week with the bloodline on SmackDown. I was just like, come on. We just watched this not even a week ago. And everybody kept talking about it. And they kept playing they played the recap on Raw too. I was just like, what are we doing? Like, I don't want the bloodline to be invading Raw. Keep them on SmackDown. I'm so done with this.
I mean, they might be putting it on Raw. It might just be too big for one channel. It's got to go on both shows.
I'm like, I hated the recap video. I was like, we know what happened. We review this. We saw it. We saw this.
They could have done half of that, and it would have been fine. You didn't need a full.
They played like the whole 90% of it.
It was a good 15 minutes of look at this commercial. Come on.
I feel like SmackDown is now on purposely trying to irritate us. I was just like,
I mean, there's a part of. I mean, they could be trolling us. I mean, that's true too. I did love this Paul Heyman segment because it was kind of short and sweet, and it was playing to Paul Heyman's strength.
Him
He
being a
kind
weirdo.
of him being a weird ski team victim.
Again,
Uh,
like the most
again,
homoerotic kind of segments. I was like, I don't know what's worse, him or Don Callis, man. Like they're both going through a weird phase right now.
yeah, Don Callis has got to work through something.
I was like, he needs to find a different art therapy like person because those art therapy classes are not helping after that portrait. But so Paul's backstage with Kayla. She asked an update on the bloodline. Heyman says there is no update. And then, of course, Kayla, trying to be the consummate professional interviewer that she
Sure.
asks about the rumors that are happening. And Heyman, like, totally gaslights her and says, is like, I can't believe, what you're asking. Those are not true. You're crazy. I'm like, oh, here we go again. If it's not Roman, it's Paul Heyman gaslighting somebody. And then, yep.
Accuses her of, am I hearing rumors about your mom, rumors about your cousins? What about your dad? What about your that? Like, just totally flips it on her in a weird, creepy, horrible kind of way.
Again, very questionable.
Paul Heyman goes, and this is high school shit.
He keeps ranting. He just rants, and it makes no coherent sense.
He rants and rants, does nothing. The thing that takes me out of it, and this drives me crazy, this happens in theater all the time. This happens in movies and commercials. Nobody fixes it. He obviously picks up and answers a phone that's not ringing and is not on. It's black. Like, there's nothing. Like, see, even on my phone, like, you can see I have notes and stuff here. Bad podcasting, I know. But if you're on YouTube, you know what I'm doing. I'm showing my phone. I could do this, and it still looks like my phone is on, at least. If it's pitch black and you're holding it to your ear. See, it even comes on like that. Like, I know you're lying. Your phone is off, and you're showing me your.
It's
talking to no one who's nobody.
It's those little nuances that annoy me. But he has to take a phone call, and the person on the other end tells Heyman something interesting, and then he hangs up. Kayla asks Heyman if he wants to share what was shared on the phone. Heyman says that it's a spoiler, not a rumor. Jimmy Uso will be on SmackDown next week. I'm like, okay, cool. And then Kayla asks if he'd like to share a source. Heyman says he'd love to, but even he would not dare. Heyman walks off. I was like, oh, so Roman. Okay, cool. Sure. It's fine. Like, that's where my mind goes. I was like, okay, so Roman's continuing to literally, it's like Roman's not there, so he's literally having him do his dirty work, and Roman is literally pimping Paul Heyman out to SmackDown right now.
And the source thing drove me nuts. I wrote that down in my notes too. It was just sort of like, who's your source? Who's your source? If it's Rikishi, I'm going to be so mad. Don't bring him in like this. Not like this. There's 100 other ways you could have done this. Not like that. I don't know. I again, and I'm repeating myself now. We kind of peaked with Sami Zayn, and now we're dispersing the bloodline slowly, painfully, in this piecemeal kind of way.
Honestly,
some folks are all in on this. Some people love it.
Listen, like, I keep going back to this. Royal Rumble, fantastic. Sami versus Roman at Elimination Chamber, awesome. Like, even the build between KO and Sami versus the Usos at WrestleMania, despite my biggest complaint was the overbookingness of Solo and everybody else and their mother getting involved in that match. That was great. And then everything post WrestleMania with the bloodline has been, it started to go bad. And then we got to Money in the Bank, and then I had a glimmer of hope when, Roman got pinned and everybody was falling apart. And I was excited for SummerSlam. The match itself was gross, and I hated it because it was boring. And then Jimmy turning on his brother was the stupidest reason ever. And we still have, like, as Paul Heyman described it in the scrum, like, this is only the bottom of the third. I'm like, no. I was like, I don't want to wait until WrestleMania in April for the story to be over. I'm done.
I think, yeah, you're gonna risk alienating a lot of folks who are over this, who are still waiting for this Cody Rhodes finish the story, who are still waiting for whatever the hell else could be going on.
Honestly,
I mean, we're gonna end up back to we're seeing Roman once every 2 months at this point. Like, what are we doing?
And that's my biggest pet peeve of this whole entire 3-year reign that Roman has had, is that, again, WWE wrote themselves into a corner because you have the main title on SmackDown not being defended Whereas Seth is out here like killing everything and everybody on the roster. And him and Shinsuke are going to have a fantastic match. And when we get to that, and it's going to be great. I think Cody is okay now that we're done with Brock Lesnar. I think Cody is going to be dealing with the Judgment Day for a little bit, which I'm okay with. Like him versus Finn, for him versus Damian, him versus Dominic. Like we got a plethora of things for Cody to keep him until maybe Survivor Series.
Is Cody going to get the NXT title from Dominic?
I don't think Cody would go back to NXT, but I mean, because Cody is too much. I mean, despite everything of how he's being booked right now, I think Cody is at the top of the card where we don't have to worry about that too much.
You're right. It's just funny to me to think like, oh God, how ridiculous would that feel and sound?
That honestly would be weird, but I'm cool if they don't mention the bloodline, but unfortunately, we're gonna still get bits and pieces because Jimmy is gonna be here next week. I'm like, sure.
But I thought he quit.
That was Jay.
Or Jay, I'm sorry. So Jimmy will be here next week. Jay, okay.
Jay is still on vacation.
Jay's on quote unquote vacation. I still say it would be a great dig to have him appear at some AEW.
Or even have him in a backstage segment with Trinity and Impact his wifey.
Yo, just anywhere else and not talk about it. Like that's gonna be
that would be amazing. Like it would be smart on WWE's part. All right, Jimmy, like talk to Impact, be like, hey, is it okay if we send somebody just like in a background shot?
The buzz and spin you're gonna get would be amazing. So all those things happen. We go on to the main event, and we finally land here with the Edge
versus
Sheamus.
Which
has
match
2.5 commercials in it.
This was a long match, and I was here for it. This match slapped. This match slapped.
So we get a commercial before it even starts. There's a commercial about 5 minutes in, and then there's a commercial right before there's 10 minutes left. So there's 3 commercials in this match because it's huge. So a few spots here. The Edge takes in Toronto, absolutely, because the Edge should. Sheamus gets booed by Toronto, which, fine, because he's facing the Edge. Edge has a moment with Beth Phoenix in here before the thing even starts. Says, goes up to his kids, gives them all hugs and kisses, looks at Beth and just says this, I'm all right. And Beth just kind of nods and almost cries, and he doesn't maintain eye contact. He just looks away. That was a real, genuine, total not break kayfabe moment that kind of horrified me.
It's like,
what does that mean?
Something's about to. Me too. I was like, oh, something's gonna go down, and I'm like,
And it was like, are you hurt but doing this anyway? Are you gonna retire? Are you here to get squashed by Sheamus?
I'm about to take all these knees to the face.
Sure, I'm gonna have to do an MRI thing again. Like, what's about to happen to you? So I was uneasy before this thing even started. I think the first 60 seconds they had to calm down. There was a few miscues in the first 60 seconds, 90 seconds or so, where I thought Edge and Sheamus weren't quite on the same page. But then after that, it exploded, and it was beautiful. They were all over the ring. They were inside and outside. They were taking all the shots. Somewhere in the middle of it wasn't a dangerous spot, but he slipped off. He went to kick Sheamus, slipped off of the deck, kind of missed kicking Sheamus, and then something else happened. And I think after that, that kicked them back into, I'm doing a thing, and it felt like they were present after that again. I love the "you still got it" chants. Toronto was all in on Edge, and there were some great spots all over this.
Man, the fact that Edge can still hit the execution in this age, and that's what got the crowd to pop. You still got it was amazing.
Oh yeah.
And then, of course, Sheamus pulled out all the moves, even some that I haven't seen since like the beginning of his WWE career. We still got like everything that he normally does, like the boot and then the Celtic cross. But to see him pull out the curse backbreaker, I was like,
oh yeah. Yeah.
And the fact that Sheamus had to use the white noise too. I was like, oh my gosh. Like that was a move I have not seen in a while.
And they all kicked out of it. Like they kicked out of all of them.
this was a good back and forth, and
It was great.
I was like, because I thought initially when this match started, I'm like, oh, Sheamus is totally going to win by the end of it, right? Like, usually I'm trained by WWE that when people retire, like, they usually take the pin and go out on their back, so to speak. But in
Sure.
the words of LA Knight, Nana, that is not what happened.
Uh this was a great match. I don't want to. I could talk about this match all day. What I really want to talk about was what happened
Af-
right after this match.
yeah, so Edge is standing tall. The crowd is like, his music plays, everyone, pyro's going off. And then SmackDown abruptly goes off air with still 2 minutes to go, but Edge and Sheamus, they embrace. But let's talk about what happened that the cameras didn't show, that we got the exclusive via the internets and YouTubes. Edge gets the microphone and cuts this promo.
So Sheamus comes in the ring, gives the shillelagh to Edge, which is a really cute moment. They hold each other's hands up. There's a huge pop for Sheamus and Edge at this moment. Sheamus kind of bows his head and leaves. So the Edge is in there in the ring, looking great with the cane, by the way. The big old shillelagh turns to Toronto and sort of has this. I'm going to talk about my history in Toronto. He talks about the highway that leads into town. He talks about the man who trained him, who is in the arena, and he tells him to stand up. He says, I owe everything to you, and you trained me for free because I'm the son of a single mom, and I busted my ass to do these things. And while I was there, I got to meet someone by the name of Beth Phoenix, and now I have 4 beautiful children. He says all these great things, and it didn't feel like a retirement speech for a reason, and we'll get to that in a second. But he's talking about his history and all these things, and all these great things in the match. He thanks Sheamus, he thanks everyone backstage, and then he turns to Toronto and he says, "Look, I don't know what's gonna happen. I don't know what the next few months are gonna bring, but this is the last time I'm gonna be in front of you, Toronto." And it was just this heartfelt, like, "Oh, that's where we're going." So this isn't the retirement, I guess, necessarily, but he's winding down his career, which in a way is a little more tearful. Like, oh damn, okay, if this is the last time you're in Toronto ever, this is a huge. I mean, it was a big match. I mean, it was a SmackDown, it wasn't a pay-per-view, but it was still big. Calls out Sheamus to be this final match for him in Toronto. I really, really heartfelt, kinda throws the mic down, he gets a big pop, sort of a not confusing, but it's sort of like, "Oh my god, I'm clapping for my hero one last time" moment. So thank you, internet, and thank you for getting your phones in and recording these things because we never would've known. Um, what does that mean?
So, and this is what got me rethinking everything. So, because I was just like, I'll be honest, and I even said this during the review last week. I'm like, okay, Sheamus is going to be his final match. I would have picked other people, but that's fine. And now that I watched this match, I was like, this match slapped. This was my match of the
Yeah,
night. Honestly, this
and
is
I think it was Edge. What's great is if this is it, Edge got to do it his way. He got to
exactly.
pick his opponent, he got to pick the city, and he got to pick his spots, and he got to give the promos. He got all the everything. I mean, this is the storybook ending. So a part of me is like, just take it.
Yeah. So, okay, so this is
Don't
the
ruin
interesting
it.
bit. So technically Edge's contract doesn't end until the end of September, but according to Edge and also Fightful and other news outlets, this was his last contracted obligation match that he needed to have on his contract. So his contract officially is donezo in the end of September, but this was the last time that he had to have this match. And so,
You hear that, Tony Khan? You hear that? You hear that,
well,
Tony Khan?
I mean, honestly, if Edge wants to go and face Christian like in a one-off or like, I still am the firm belief that like if maybe this is it for Edge in WWE, but if Edge is going to retire from wrestling completely, I think Christian should be the one to make him be like. I think Christian needs to be the one to be his final opponent as Edge rides off into the sunset and retires from the wrestling completely.
The Twitter and or X and or Threads or whatever the cool kids are using now is filled with memes of Tony Khan finding ways to rush to get Edge's attention as the contract expires. I It seems like Hall of Famers go to AEW, which is fine because the WWE Legends thing isn't really doing anything. Uh And if it's a Vince McMahon or Triple H call, like, "Hey, we can't keep giving you AAA money because you're however old you are and you're trying to wind this down and we're trying to build up his other talent," I think the Edge gets it. And he kinda sorta almost put Grayson Waller over. He got to do the match with his friend who got him back into wrestling. I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility that there's an Edge and Christian hook in AEW a few months from now. Because why not?
And yep.
That's the one thing that's missing, Edge. Like, go get it.
And it's crazy because somebody posted on Facebook of like a graphic of like outside of like Royal Rumble stuff, like every match that Edge has had since he returned from his injury back in 2019, I think it was.
Wow.
But and then I'm looking through this list, I'm like, damn, Edge has had some solid matches. Like him and Randy Orton had a trilogy, and then he faced his triple threat with Roman and Daniel Bryan at WrestleMania. I forgot
Yeah,
happened.
sure.
Um, Him versus AJ Styles in their trilogy was phenomenal. Like Edge has had some great programs. And I was like, damn, I forgot how good some of these matches were. And if this is
Yeah,
it, man, like as far as Edge and WWE, I'm happy that we got him for the last 4 years because he put on some phenomenal matches.
it sucks that I wasn't watching wrestling the second half of his career because I stopped watching wrestling really 2003, 2004. So I got to see the first 6 years of his career, and I loved Edge. I was a huge Edge fan, and the Brood and Gangrel and Cage and all those folks.
And then the
I
rated R
love
superstar.
And then when he became, all those weird Lita entanglements and what the hell is this? Edge was great. I had a blast watching the Edge. And still just as a performer and as a technician and on the microphone, like that's the example. Yes, that's a Hall of Famer. Like that's the triple A bar are the performers like Edge and everyone else you saw in those promos who knew what they were talking about. The tag team, I rewatched some of the tag team with him and Rey Mysterio, which were those matches were really wild. Like, oh my God, these are two great taste great together. So I again, if I went from being in the AE, if I went from going from the WWE into more of an independent contractor position, and the only thing really left on my quote unquote bucket list would be to go see Christian again. Because it's probably been, I don't know, 10, 15 years?
It's been
It's
weird because like
been a while.
Christian was back in WWE for a bit, and then they did nothing with him and Edge. It was weird.
Yeah. So I'd be interested to see if it's just, I mean, Edge doesn't need any money. He's probably been taken care of. Though he's got 4 kids, so maybe a little extra in the coffers doesn't hurt. But Edge can pick his spots. Edge could do whatever Edge wants. There's also a part of me, and I would love your opinion about this, but I already think I know what you're gonna say. I would love to see him coaching up NXT. I would love to see him in a capacity where he's working with young new talent and getting and passing on what he knows. Because Sean's probably a good, I don't know, 10, 15 years older than not that much older, but about 10 years older than Edge, because Edge is 52. So Sean's probably not 60, but Sean's up there too. Like, get more people in there running these, training this next generation while you still have them on the books.
Yeah. And honestly, this was this was a beautiful this was my match of the night. This was a beautiful way to end SmackDown, and then the post-match promo, like I was
Yeah.
like, if this is truly it for Edge and WWE, it has been an honor and a privilege.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And of
That's how
course,
you do it.
I hope you continue to wrestle outside of WWE, but I will be seeing you very soon on Disney Plus because you are the God of War in the Percy Jackson TV series. So that's the other thing too that people don't talk about. Edge actually is a pretty decent actor.
Edge is great. I didn't realize he'd been in so much stuff. I was like, you've done a handful of things. Good
He
for
was
you.
he was like he was like a guest starring role, and I forgot what sci-fi show he was a part of. And then he was on there for like 2 whole seasons as like a main cast member. I was like,
Oh yeah.
oh, Edge is great. This is fun. This SmackDown was actually pretty good. I was like,
That's
ooh.
great.
I mean, minus the bloodline stuff, like even that wasn't enough to like make me
I
absolutely
mean, we
hate
just
it.
got a taste of Bloodline, right? It wasn't awful. I'm trying to pull up the Edge's resume. Hang on. I wanted to know what else the Edge was in. There it is. No, not the guy from U2. Come on. Jeez. Sorry, everyone. Bad podcasting. I wanted to look up the films that the Edge has been in. No, not the horrible 90s film.
Oh my
You're,
goodness.
you're killing me.
Well,
Anyway, I'm
yeah.
gonna do that later. Thank you for watching this review of SmackDown from August 18th, 2000,
Yeah, August
2023,
18th.
whatever it is.
But Professor,
We
we need to do
we
one
gotta
more thing.
we gotta grade it. We gotta grade it out of minis, yeah?
Yes, we got to grade it out of minis.
So
So,
out of minis, we use the mini scale here on the SmackDown. So out of 10 minis, what are you thinking?
funny enough, I'm going to give this a solid 8 out of 10. Like it was that good for me. Again, we got a taste of the bloodline. I still hate the commercials, but I have to get over that. I think no Shotzi, so that was like a -2 deduction right there for me.
Sure, absolutely. But minus two.
I hope that we're not just dropping it, but maybe also Shotzi is taking some time off because we know her sister is dealing with, cancer and everything. So maybe she decided to take some time. Like
There are more important places to be. Yeah.
And honestly, I think, as weird as it is to say, I think they've done enough to still have my interest with it. So whatever happens with Charlotte and Bianca and all them, like I think Shotzi will come back in and just like scare Bailey, and that'd be fun. But yeah, other than that, the matches were great. I love the Street Profits' new finisher. The Grayson Waller effect did what it did. Miz and LA Knight like trading verbal jabs during that opening match was really awesome. I mean, LWO like shooting down Grayson Waller's instigating was so much fun to watch. It was fresh because we're not getting the same storylines that we've been dealing with for the last couple months. It's different, and we're evolving characters.
The bloodline stuff is not holding you down. You don't have, like we've been talking about, these 45 minutes of ring entrances into I hate you more super kick. Like, yeah, we had stuff to do and we got to see it. I agree with you. I'm right at that 8.5, 8 point mid-range, 8.4, 8.6, let's say, right in the middle of the eights. Only because you didn't use more women talent, which I feel like you should be using and taking advantage of. Your Edge promos were great, and I understand it's the night of Edge and it's 25 years of Edge, and I get it, and I love Edge too.
We're in Toronto.
I get it. We're doing all the things, and we love Canada. Fine. Maybe cut 4 or 5 minutes out of those, maybe, and put that on a match, or give the women more time. Like, ugh. But that's nitpicky. That was it. The Paul Heyman thing was kind of weird, in and out of context. I'm like, yeah, okay, fine. Next week, woo,
Ski team.
Yeah, ski team. You go get him, Paul Heyman. You're your one-man ski team. A lot of jokes per second. If you don't know what we're talking about, listen to other episodes. You'll catch the drift. Yeah, and also as a teacher, like there's no 10 out of 10 ever. No one's ever gonna get there. This is one of the higher rated SmackDowns because they didn't have to do anything. Well, let me say this correctly. I love it when you take a risk. There's some risks they took, sure, and they all kind of paid off. Great. But you didn't have to stretch or reach. You just had to do what you knew you were good at, and you did what you're good at really well. Perfect. I'm interested. I'll fight through the commercials. I'll watch your 2-hour whatever. I will say, without that little bump at the end, knowing, thank you to the internet for telling us what the Edge said, I might have graded this just a straight 8. But hearing what the Edge had to say and giving me more of that personal touch brings that up to 8.5 from me.
This was a great episode.
It was great. Like, cool. So next week, 2 out of 10. It's going to be 60 minutes of Bloodline. Still no Shotzi. Someone gets hurt. Like, that's where we're going.
No, don't say that. Don't put it out into the universe like that. I want to keep enjoying SmackDown. I know we're getting Jimmy next week, so if it's just Jimmy, I'm fine with it, but I smell some shenanigans.
It's gonna be Jimmy, and he's gonna go back into the bloodline with Roman and say you were right. They're gonna gaslight each other, and Solo spikes him through a table. Like, it's the same it's gonna be the same. I'm hopeful, but it's gonna be the same. And it's competing with All In, so they're gonna try and make a splash because it's the night
Oof.
before. So we're gonna
Child.
see what happens.
It's great.
But thank you all for listening and or watching to the Vibe Tribe Productions Bi-Conics Wrestling Podcast YouTube channel streaming feed for SmackDown on August 18th, 2023. I am John, affectionately known as the Professor, and I am joined by Mikey. And Mikey, tell them what else we do.
If you enjoyed this long form review from the Friday Night Faction crew here, that we're going to officially call ourselves now.
Oh, I don't mind that. That's not
bad. Yeah, so if you enjoyed this review, you could check out the other Friday Night Faction reviews or all the other reviews we got going on here on the YouTube channel. Make sure to follow us at BC WrestleProd across all of the social medias, where now we're posting shorts, clips from all these reviews too. It's great. It's hilarious.
We got our first negative comment. We're excited about our first negative comment.
We love it because now we're making
come for us.
We're making our way through the world. And then of course we have the Bi-Conics Wrestling Podcast, where you can listen to us just ramble about professional wrestling that is not television review related. We laugh, we cry, we tell each other that our takes are horrible. It is
Have we done that? We did that once or twice. We didn't hate each other, but we definitely went, really? That's your thought? We got to work on the themes, right? We got
the themes. So our next episode, when we get together, we'll be rating the theme songs that have happened for WWE pay-per-views so far, and maybe throw in a little NXT, theme songs too, because sometimes the NXT theme songs for their pay-per-views are slap harder than main roster. But you'll have to tune into that episode to find out. But that is going to be it from all of us here at the Friday Night Faction, squad here. From all of us here at the Bi-Conics, remember, take care of yourself, love one another, and until the next Friday Night Faction review, adios, sayonara, and thanks for watching. Ta-ta for now.